Hey everyone, Jay here with Dad Things. And yes, I know it's been a while. When I first came up with this project, I wanted it to be an interview series where I talk with other dads or parents and talk to them about their struggles, their victories with parenting. And I quickly found out that an interview series is probably the hardest thing to do in terms of a podcast. You've got to line up guests, you've got to schedule them. You know how hard it is to schedule things, especially with work and family life going on. And that quickly fell to the wayside. But I knew I still wanted to do something like this. And I listened to a daily podcast by Lex Friedman. It's called Your Daily Lex, and he just talks about whatever he wants to talk about on that certain day. And it's dumb. It's a look into somebody's daily life, but to me, it's fascinating and it's interesting because he talks about current events, parenting, just anything that's going on in his daily life. And I took inspiration from that, and I still have this podcast. I know I still want to do something with it, and I thought having something like that, maybe not necessarily daily, but something more frequent than once a year, would be a way for me to keep this project alive and keep me motivated to make this and to produce content. And one of the things that made me want to start this again was how the subject of how to talk to your kids about bad news. And as everybody knows, there's a lot of bad things going on in the news lately in the world today. One, you've got the war in Ukraine. You've got all these mass shootings, and locally pretty close to home, someone at our kids' school passed away just this morning, and it's 10:30 on May 25th, and I have to pick him up from school later today, where they probably have talked about it, and he's gonna probably want to talk about it too. So I'm kind of mentally preparing myself for how to do that, and have been doing this ever since he's been curious, and ever since even my oldest one has been curious and asks us about news and stuff. So I want to talk about what I do, what I do to kind of break news, to this type of news to our kids, how to do it, and just basically how to be prepared for when stuff like this happens. I noticed that kids can pretty much smell your BS, even though they might not say it. I know I'm guilty of this. If I'm busy doing something and they ask me a question, I can just, especially with the younger one, I can just make up an answer to kind of make him go away, or just so I can get back to whatever I was doing. But they can sense that pretty quickly, and I think that's not good of me to do that. But especially when it comes to a serious topic like, I've been avoiding the news, especially because of those mass shootings. So to kind of avoid him bringing it up, but I know I can't bring up the news from this morning. We found out that the principal of his school passed away last night in his sleep, and he was set to retire after this school year. And we've got 3 weeks left in the school year. And I can't imagine how unfortunate, how sad that news is. I mean, I met the guy a few times to pick up my son from school. Just, you have to check in at the office. He was always there. I remember the first day of in-school instruction last year. He was helping with the drop-offs. This was a new school for my youngest, and he was there helping kids get out of the car and leading them to where they get their temperature checked, and then where to line up for their class. And he was just always there. And to find out that he passed out in his sleep the year he was set to retire, enjoy the rest of his life, he was super young. He was like 55 or 57 from what I read, and it's just so terrible. And I've got to pick him up, and I know he's probably gonna ask about it, so I have to mentally prepare for how to have that conversation, and it's kind of what inspired me to start recording again. Um, I guess all I can say is, be honest. Kids can smell BS, even though they won't show it or say it, and they'll just kind of whatever go off and do their own thing, even though they're maybe not might not be satisfied with the answer that you gave them. Um, but they're gonna know that, oh, Daddy didn't answer my question, and they'll probably remember that. Um, no matter how hard or how tough or how difficult the question might be, you have to answer it in the best way, age appropriate way that you can. Um, I mean, you're their parents and they look up to you for everything, right? You have to feed them, take care of them, transport them, provide shelter, and even without those necessities, they look up to you for answers to questions they might have. Like, no matter how simple, like, oh, how does a microwave work, or uh, just simple questions like, how does this work, or where does that come from? Where do babies come from? To why is there a war? And I had to explain to my youngest why there's a war in the Ukraine in the best, simplest way that I could, in a way that he would understand. Um, yeah, and I guess that just leads to my second point is just to be there for them, because if you're not, I don't think that sets a good example for your kids. I mean, no matter how busy, even if you do or you don't have the time to sit down and explain to them whatever they're asking, they look up to you. And I can probably remember or maybe not remember, since I've repressed the memories, sometimes where I ask a question and I can definitely tell that my parents were kind of avoiding the question or skirting around the answer because they just didn't want to maybe talk about how complex of a issue I was asking about at that age or whatever. And, sometimes I catch myself doing that too, but I know on days like today and like weeks, like the past few weeks, now is probably not the best time to kind of skirt around those answers, but just to be open and honest and upfront with your kids, because especially, I mean, even with our oldest one, but definitely with the youngest one, they're still super impressionable, and they're probably going to remember how you addressed them, and they'll probably remember what you said or how you explained it to them. And, they'll take that with them, like, oh, okay, I understand now. Or they might have more questions, or they might go talk to their friends. So yeah, it's super important to just, especially with tough subjects and events like what happened this week and today, it's super important to be upfront and honest and to be there for them. Anyways, I hope this is more frequent. I'm going to try to do this. I'll shoot for daily. That's going to be super tough, but at least weekly. It's super easy to just plug in a microphone and just talk instead of just writing a blog post or writing a newsletter. I know that's super tough to collect links and send it out in a newsletter, but this is something I can do, plug in, record, upload, and share with everybody. So hope everybody subscribes and stays tuned in. Thanks, everybody.